This is literally my fucking boy. He died.
My father.
And he's back now. He got the reboot card on everything. Tell me you didn't.
No, I did, bro.
Yeah, we know. People are giving us ugly faces right now because we're real about this shit, but it's facts. And I was there with him through like the whole fucking process. So would you say it's better off that you're dead or no?
No.
All right, let's run it. Oh, boom! Better off dead. I know that was kind of like a weird and maybe inappropriate intro, but that's how we do it here. We're out there.
I wanted to record a response to Jaden's video about Better Off Dead and the reboot card and silence. So what's Jaden talking about? It turns out there's a kind of silence that nobody's willing to break. It's biblical. I came across it differently, so I'm willing to talk about some of these things. I call it the messianic secret or the curse, but what it is, it's part of discipleship. It's part of the way things work in true discipleship, not discipleship like we learn in church or Sunday school. I'm going to read a passage from Mark chapter 8, 34 to 38. It happens to include verse 36, which is Jaden's first tattoo. I think that's interesting and appropriate, by the way. So Mark 8, 34 to 38 says, "And he summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, 'If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul?'" That's what Jaden has tattooed on his arm. "For what will a man give in exchange for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." So that quick passage has a few key components in it that are really important to capture and understand. So one is you have to deny yourself. You've got to. It's kind of like the division of the left hand and the right hand. Don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. Jaden talks about being with his right hand in his song "Christmas Sucks." It's this division of self, like Hebrews 4:12 says. Only God's got a knife sharp enough to divide the soul and spirit. So the idea is there's sort of two different kinds of people, like two different experiences in life, and that's what the secrecy is all about. The concept of discipleship turns out to be sort of an extension of Christ. The extension of Christ's body is Christ taught his disciples to keep his word and not say anything. And if they did keep his word and not say anything, they would never taste death. So think about that. Never taste death. Well, how does that work in the human condition where we do all die? Well, the Bible says that some don't die. Jesus promised that some people would not die. So what is real discipleship? What are the things that we learn about in that quick passage? There are a few things. So first, it's not discipleship like we learn about in church. It's real discipleship. Real discipleship, according to Luke 14:26, says we have to hate ourselves and our parents and pick up our own cross, and then only then can we be a disciple of Christ. So we have to sort of rethink what the cross is and what that means, and what discipleship is and what that means. It's an utter denial of yourself. It's denying the other side, like Jesus said Peter would do. Peter would deny Christ 3 times before the rooster crows. He's going to deny Christ 3 times before he wakes up. It's an incredible process how this works, but at the end of the day, discipleship is what the reboot card is all about, and what the silence is all about that nobody can talk about. It's returning to what I call the messianic secret, and Jesus says that we must remain silent if we're in that condition. So if you take the vow of the Nazarite, so Numbers 6:1-21 tells us how the vow actually works. You can't drink. You have to remain sober. Things like that. Jaden's got a song even about sober, right? That's what he's talking about. Is avoiding this sort of this condition where you can't drink anything from the vine, like Jesus said he wouldn't do after the Last Supper until it was time. So it's important to understand sort of how these things come together. A really intriguing concept about this idea of discipleship is one makes his own decision to do it. In doing so, those decisions are sort of cleaning up, cleaning the inside of the whitewashed tomb. So going back to Jaden's song "Sober," he's sitting in front of a white church. I mean, you can't make that up, right? Sitting in front of a white church, and I look at the church as being the whitewashed tomb. It looks really good from the outside, but it's really filthy on the inside because of human pride, and not understanding really what's going on in the world around us. And we're sort of blinded by that. And God did that on purpose. Jesus used the word to do that. He only taught in parables so that we wouldn't turn and be saved or be healed. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that there's a lot going on in this world around us that we can't see, and it's a perpetual thing. It's not something that just went away. Persecution didn't go away somehow with the early church. It continues on. That's why people don't say what they want to say when there's that Elvis movie quote that says, when things are too dangerous to say, sing. Well, people sing because they can't say what they want to say, and Jaden even says that in this video about Better Off Dead.
And the way it's delivered in music is perfect, the way we get to talk about real issues and real stuff in music and make it comfortable for people to listen to is like a big part of my journey as an artist.
It's easier to sing things you can sing about, but you can't talk about. One thing I would like to key in on is verse 36. So Mark 8:36 says essentially, losing your soul isn't worth the whole world. It's really important because it's a specific reference to Jesus' temptation in the wilderness with Satan, where Satan essentially says, "Here, you can have everything, just worship me." In other words, give up your soul, and you can have it all. You can have the whole world. Jaden's first tattoo is essentially saying, "Sorry, Satan, I am not taking that bait." There are only two ways through this gauntlet of life, and one is through faith and one is through grace. Faith is faith in the system. Grace is because certain people, they're not held to account because it's kind of the condition that you're in. So anyway, they're different kinds of people. But at the end of the day, you either live by faith and how things are going to work out eventually and you can't say anything, or you live by grace and you can be a fumbling fool. You can be the oxen that can't be muzzled, can't be redirected, like Uzzah found out to David's horror. As a disciple, you're a student of the rabbi. So think of a disciple as somebody who learns from the rabbi, learns from the word, and the word is the guide that somebody keeps secret and guards in their heart throughout their lifetime. So that's how you make your way through the gauntlet. So that person, according to Leviticus 27:28 and 29, is somebody who can't be ransomed. It's somebody who was devoted to destruction, who tore down the temple. Think of that, tore down the temple walls, right? So you do that through division of man, and you cause the church to sort of tear itself down. That's the meaning of that particular verse. Now I'd like to get into the meaning of the reboot card directly, and I'm going to read a couple of passages. One is John 8:50 to 51, and then the other one is Mark 9:17 to 29. And I'll go ahead and read those quickly. John 8:50 to 51 is, "But I do not seek my glory. There is one who seeks and judges. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death." Mark 9:17 starts with, "And one of the crowd answered him, 'Teacher, I brought you my son, possessed with a spirit which makes him mute. And whenever it seizes him, it slams him to the ground, and he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and stiffens out. I told your disciples to cast it out, and they couldn't do it.' And he answered them, and he said, 'O unbelieving generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring him to me.' They brought the boy to him. When he saw him, immediately the spirit threw him into a convulsion. Falling to the ground, he began rolling around and foaming at the mouth. And he asked his father, 'How long has this been happening to you?' And he said, 'From childhood. It has often thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us.' And Jesus said to him, 'If you can, all things are possible to him who believes.' Immediately the boy's father cried out and said, 'I do believe. Help my unbelief.' When Jesus saw that a crowd was rapidly gathering, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, You deaf and mute spirit, I command you, come out of him, and do not enter him again. After crying out and throwing him into terrible convulsions, it came out, and the boy became so much like a corpse that most of them said, he is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and raised him up, and he got up, and he came into the house. His disciples began questioning him privately, why could we not drive it out? And he said to them, this kind cannot come out by anything but prayer. Another version says by anything but fasting and prayer. So there are a few things that I want to key into in those two quick passages. So one is, truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he'll never see death. So first off, some people will never see death. Second, if you keep the word, keep also means to guard, to keep secret, to hide, to keep close, not to share. In other words, to shut up. You can't say anything. That keys into this introduction that Jaden had in his video. The second passage from Mark 9 has also some really appropriate meaning. So one is, there are certain kinds of people that keep going from fire to water, fire to water. That's baptism to hell, baptism to hell. So you're getting clean and then dirty again, clean and dirty again, and the torment's awful. So the father's like, hey, help me with my unbelief. And all I can think of is how Jaden says that he was with Cooper the entire time, helping him. So Jesus says that all things are possible to him who believes. And he also commands the deaf and mute spirit to come out. So that's ending silent. That's ending the silence. That's ending the unawareness. It's a death of unawareness. Think of it that way, right? So you become aware, and you become saved. You become healed because you turned. That's the idea. And what's happening here is Jesus is teaching his disciples how to cast out this particular kind of spirit. This is all before the great command for the disciples to go out into all corners of the world and make disciples of all nations. So think about this. Jesus, the body of Christ, Jesus had to send his disciples out to teach them how to heal and how to do this. So think of this as what is going on when Jaden's saying that he helped his friend through this process. He was dead. He came back to life. It's the reboot card. It's another chance. It's another shot. It's cleaning up. It's one more time through the torment, but doing it the right way, through silence and understanding. But you came back to life and you were saved. It's actually a really beautiful thing, to be honest with you. But his music is replete with references to this, and I can't wait to unpack more of it. But if you want to learn more about the Messianic Secret, click on the links in the description. I hope it can shed some light for you, and I hope that it can give some people peace.